going to talk about Daniel and his friends.
Yay!
It was noontime in the city of Jerusalem. The temple school for boys had been dismissed. Daniel and his 3 special friends were hurrying home to lunch when suddenly a trumpet sounded.
Toy! Toy! Toy!
Shrilled the trumpet. It was noontime call to prayer, 3 times a day.
Morning, noon, and night.
A priest came out on the temple porch and blew a ram's horn trumpet.
Toy! 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 It's time for prayers.
Daniel turned about face toward the temple. His friends turned about face to the temple. All the people of Jerusalem stopped whatever they were doing and faced toward the temple. With heads bowed, they prayed to God of heaven. At home, Daniel's mother served pulse for lunch.
Pulse is food like beans and vegetables.
Brown bread, berries, and dates. Daniel liked pulse. Pulse would make him grow tall. Pulse would make him grow strong. Pulse would make him good grades in school. Daniel, his 3 friends, and all the people of Jerusalem felt safe in their city. For hadn't the city a high stone wall around it, with a watchtower above each gate, where watchmen kept watch day and night? But one day all was not well. The watchman hurried out of the tower, blew a warning blast on his trumpet, and shouted, "An enemy approaches!" Quickly, the gates were shut and barred. Men mounted city walls. Boys climbed rooftops. Far away, so far that soldiers and camels looked like a line of creeping,
crawling bugs,
came the dread army, the feared army of Babylon.
Closer, 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 the army came!
Oh no! The army of Babylon pitched camp near Jerusalem. The soldiers built great battering ram machines and pushed them up beside the wall.
Crash, crash, crash.
All day long, the battering rams beated and battered on the wall of Jerusalem.
Crash, crash, crash.
Finally, after many days, a part of the high stone wall gave away. The army of Babylon marched into Jerusalem. Some of the soldiers climbed the hill to the temple and took away the temple's golden vessels, as the king of Babylon had commanded them to do. Some soldiers stood guard, while other soldiers took men and boys prisoners.
They took Daniel and his 3 friends.
Oh no! The army marched the prisoners toward Babylon. Soldiers on camel led the way, then the prisoners, changed together. Next, donkeys, bearing the golden vessels. Then more soldiers. For days and days, the procession marched across a hot, sandy desert. Daniel's sandals wore out. His friends' sandals were out.
The hot sand burned their feet. They were thirsty. They were tired.
But on and on, they had to march until they came to Babylon. The king of Babylon sat on his royal throne, while soldiers paraded the prisoners before him. Said the king to the captain of the army,
"Choose boys from among the prisoners, goodly boys.
Give them food from my table to eat, and give them of my wine to drink. They shall go to school for 3 years to learn the wisdom of Babylon." Daniel and his 3 friends were chosen. Prince Melzar was given charge over all the boys. That evening, Daniel and his friends talked together. "We can't eat king's food," said Daniel, "if had been offered to idols, and besides, the king's food is not the best food for boys."
What shall we do?
The boys asked one another. Then Daniel thought of a plan. "Let's ask Melzar to give us pulse to eat and water to drink, instead of king's food and wine."
It's a good plan,
agreed 3 friends. Daniel and his friends went to see Prince Melzar. They bowed politely, then asked for pulse and water instead of king's food and wine. Melzar shook his head. "No. If the king should see you looking thinner than the other boys and learn that I have given you pulse and water, he might He might even cut off my head.
Please try it for 10 days,
begged Daniel. So Melzar agreed to give them pulse and water for 10 days.
Then we shall see,
he said. Although Daniel and his friends were far from home, and there were no sound of ram's horn trumpet to remind them, they did not forget to pray. Morning, noon, and night, Daniel opened his window towards the temple back in Jerusalem and prayed to God of heaven. He asked God to bless and the pulse of water and please let it make them strong, so that Melzar might know that pulse and water were better for boys than the king's food and wine. When the 10 days came, Prince Melzar carved all the boys before him. He looked at their faces. He felt their arms. He found that Daniel and his 3 friends were fairier and fatter than the boys who ate the king's food and drank the king's wine. So ever after, during the 3 years of school, Prince Melzar gave Daniel and his friends pulse to eat and
water to drink. 1, 2, 3.
Years went by. School was over for Daniel and his friends. They had grown taller. Had they grown wiser?
No.
The king himself would test them. Daniel and his friends, dressed in clean clothes, with hair combed and sandals polished, stood before the king of Babylon. The king asked them questions after questions.
And look!
The king found Daniel and his 3 friends 10 times wiser than all the wise men of Babylon. That was the whole story of Daniel and his friends. Was it fun?
Yes.
I hope you guys enjoyed. And remember that even though you are in a bad space, and if you cannot remember God, you should remember God.
And there will be lots of many bad people. But don't worry. That people don't know who's God, don't know how does pulse and water, don't know that they make strong and tall. So you guys shall remember that we don't eat wines and pig meats. We eat like Daniel, like water and pulse.
I hope you guys enjoyed.
Bye-bye!